stepping into the role as the lead, like it's daunting to say, okay, you will lead, a large network of men, to try and really not just influence the culture within your own company, but it's a mindset change. It's a culture change, right? That is very daunting. But the flip side of that coin is that I realized through working with such passionate people and having conversations is that men feel imposter syndrome too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Men have these insecurities about their impact and what they can do, right? So what I'm loving about this opportunity is, yes, it is incredibly uncomfortable to step into this work, to step into this network, but at the same time, hey, you probably have the same questions that I have, maybe a little bit different perspective for men and women, but through that insecurity, that's a commonality we have. And I think we can start there, right? That we can just have a conversation, learn from each other, with grace, right? Be willing to, because people will make mistakes, but we're honoring the fact that people want to show up, and that's huge.
Yes. And I'm so glad you talked about the whole fear, because, we always try to get our executives to really be authentic and share their stories. Any person in MFI, because it's so helpful, but there's so much fear initially in sharing an experience that didn't go well for you, an experience you did not master. And so much of that, this inclusion work, this diversity work, is that it's that uncomfortable feeling of not being quite right, not being quite accepted, and just stepping out on a limb. But the more you do it, the more trust you build with your team, the more authentic you become, and be seen as, and the more you get over that fear, and it becomes just a way for you to talk and express yourself. And people are bonded to that. They really jive with that. And so it's more, MF5, we really build our platform on the listening, helping men listen to others and get to the point where they want to share their experience as well. And getting past that fear of not knowing everything. That's okay. We don't always have to have the answers for these hard conversations, these hard challenges that come up, and topics and issues. But the fact that we're there listening and building trust and just being vulnerable with each other is such a huge step in for all of us, but especially for MFI, it's really, helping us grow together. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks.
Yeah, I think from a very general, maybe shifting the lens a little bit and giving you my perspective is when you're talking about imposter syndrome, and I've had this conversation with a few men around how culture drives imposter syndrome as well. You mentioned traveling to India. India has a very strong, very binary culture, right? Which is, when I was growing up, I was either supposed to be an engineer, a doctor, or a loser. That was a very drastic, cliff dive at the end of that conversation. So it's a culture which has driven me initially to think that there was no room for failure and iteration. So, I had to get out of my own echo chamber of going in and saying, okay, I do not know the answer. And I am good enough in some cases, right? It's and I had to make statements versus ask questions. Imposter syndrome sits in the land of questions, right? Am I good enough? Am I qualified enough? A lot of that going on in your echo chamber, and shifting that from questions to statements to say, I am good enough, right? I am very qualified to get this. And it drove a lot of the initial, let's just say, personal transformation for me. And I've seen that with some others I've spoken to when we've created a safe space, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I just thought I should share that